All right, welcome back to Talking Shop. Special trip, we got Ernie back with us. Mike is out today.
Once in a while.
Pops in every now and again, old standby. But we are looking at the text for the last Sunday of the church year, Matthew chapter 25, 31 to 46, separation of the sheep and the goats. We'll have a great conversation about kind of what that means. Is this works finally at the end, or is it still conditional on Christ and what He has done? And how do we understand righteousness in this regard? All that kind of stuff, and how we're gonna maybe preach this text. So join us for that. Leave your comments as well about how you might handle the text. That helps everybody. Like, subscribe, and let's get after it.
Spit out my Lord in every way, yet I'm still welcome in the arms.
All right, Matthew chapter 25, 31 through 46, the last Sunday of the church year. Perfect text for it. Sheep, goats, those kind of things.
Another parable.
So when the Son of Man comes in His glory, and all the angels with Him, then He will sit on His glorious throne. And what's the scene? What's the scene that's playing out before Him?
Well, like we said last week, it's the end of times, right? Like the Judgment Day issue kind of time period. And so that's the last day of the church year.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the last days.
Yeah.
You might, especially just a couple weeks out of All Saints Day, if you read Revelation 7, you'll hear this, and before Him will be gathered all nations, like, oh, they're getting ready to sing His praise. And no, not so much.
Right.
Not so much.
Yeah. So before Him are gathered all the nations, and He will separate one people from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats.
So He is dealing in races right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because the text actually at that point does not say anything. It just says He will separate them from another.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so you can read into that. Does He mean people? Does He mean individuals? What's the...
No,
Yeah,
I
but-
just think it's between the sheep and the goats, right?
It's pretty clear. It's between sheep and goat. Yeah.
So that's our categories. We got sheep and goats, and when we started, you started and said, "Oh, it's another parable."
Yeah.
Well, we don't have like that normal introduction like the way we've had the last few weeks of parables.
Right.
But it definitely kind of it's a parable. It's-
Well, because you have you have Him giving the analogy of sheep and goats.
yeah.
And so
He does it as a
Yeah,
sheep does.
yeah,
As a shepherd does.
and so you realize this is going to be an analogy, if you will, or
right.
this is going to be some sort of metaphor.
And it's the kingdom of heaven is like. That's kind of like the tone in which this is shared.
Yeah, and it still comes off of it. I mean, the last.
Is
last
there
time said that
is there
was-
anything? I know we kind of think this way, but is there anything real about what goes on what side? Like why right side versus left side?
Mm-hmm.
You always hear like Christ is at the right hand of the Father,
Yeah.
those kind of things. The right hand is
Man.
usually that privileged side, those kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the right is definitely the side of power. It's the side of authority.
Right.
The right hand of God coming down for His people
Sure.
is the hand of judgment on their behalf. I think that's beneficial.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you get the differentiation between right-handed people and left-handed people. I know, like in the Asian cultures, it's like they beat the left hand out of you.
Yes.
Because that's the devil's side, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's the mentality that's been coming through. And this is probably where we get it from, is that, from the left hand and the right hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be us pulling something into our culture from the text, not necessarily the
Yeah,
his
exactly.
culture saw it in that way. Because after all, you have James and John saying, "I want to sit at your right and your left," and not saying, not me at the left, not me at the left.
yeah.
So,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
there's, but yeah,
So he separates them out. Right side, good side here. Left side. It's
In
just the
this case.
point is they're being separate. And actually, so much of the parables have hinted towards this, right? The harvest day that'll come, then He'll separate it out, the wheat from the chaff, all that kind of
the
stuff.
parable of the net.
Yes.
Good fish, bad fish.
So here it is. Here's the separating out, and this time the language of sheep and goats. And the sheep go on the right, the goats on the left. What does He say to those on His right?
Welcome you who are blessed by my Father, which again, I just thought of that. We were translating it with the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are you,
Sure.
blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, all of that. So, come you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom that has been prepared for you from the foundation of the world. So this thing that has always been yours, you now get to come and enjoy it.
Right. And why? Why do they get to do that?
For he was hungry, and he was fed, and he was thirsty, and he was given drink. And when he was a stranger, they invited him in. And when he needed clothes, we clothed him. And when he was sick, we looked after him. And when he was in prison, we visited him.
Right, so you get this laundry list of things, right? Good things.
Yep.
That they are given credit for. You did these things. Come, this kingdom is prepared for you. Come and do it because you did these things.
In Hebrew, this would be tzedakah, which we often translate as righteousness.
Yeah.
But in the context of the culture, it's charity.
Okay,
it's giving to those in need.
This would be, I think Luther in his Galatians commentary, he has that distinction between active and passive righteousness. This is that active righteousness that you're living out in your life, the things you're doing.
Yep.
And if you think about 2 weeks ago in our our text, we're about rejoice and be glad from the Sermon from the Mount, right? In your persecution and all that stuff. And there's like a lot of people that are so happy in giving, even though they themselves are suffering. And so when Jesus is suffering, or when they saw someone else suffering in behalf of Jesus, even though they were being persecuted or whatever, they were righteously going out to help regardless of, what their personal situation is.
Yep.
The great thing about this is
they have amnesia.
They have no idea, right? So he lists this stuff off, and their immediate response is, when?
When did we see that?
And they go through the same list.
They do the same
when
list.
Did we do all these things, right? We didn't do this, or we don't remember doing this.
More importantly, we don't recall doing it to you.
Yeah.
I think that's the side of it is we don't remember seeing you in that state and coming to your aid to help out.
Yeah. And so how does the king in our parable here answer?
I tell you the truth, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me.
All right.
There you are.
You do it to the least, you do it to him.
And the least take you back to the one who's downtrodden, the one who's, you might say, even the new believer. This is the child in their midst. From Matthew 18, who is the greatest, and these are the greatest, the ones who are suffering, the ones who are doing all of this. So they're the least. Although you could reverse it and say the least in that case are then the leadership, the apostles, which I think Gibbs does, by the way, but that's in his commentary on Matthew.
Okay.
But
it's striking. It reminds me of the language of, a good tree bears good fruits, a bad tree bad fruit. In other words, like the sheep are bearing good fruit, and they're not really even aware of it.
Right.
Like they're just doing sheep stuff.
Yeah. And more importantly, it appears from at least the context of the verses, they aren't doing it so that they can be on the right.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like they're not saying, "Hey, I'm gonna make sure I take care of this person," or because that's how I get in the good graces with the king who's gonna separate me out from the goats. It's simply that's just what they do.
Yeah,
they do these things.
Yeah.
And they don't even see it as direct service to God. Right?
And this is also like just another one of the, because this comes after the 10 virgins parable that we did a couple weeks ago. And it's the same thing, There's some of those virgins who were just prepared. And remember, they fell asleep, but they were still prepared. And they just did what they were supposed to do versus the others who were like, oh, am I doing the right thing at this moment? Am I making sure that I'm awaiting for the bridegroom to come? Kind of situation. So
I think it's So they do that. Now he turns his attention to the left side, right?
Yeah.
And it's all the exact opposite, right? What does he say to them?
Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels.
Yikes.
Yeah, so this is eternal condemnation, right? And then he runs through the same list, right? I was hungry, you didn't give me anything to eat. Thirsty, you didn't feed me. Sick in prison, you didn't visit me. And they also answer the same way. So again, I do kind of like your going back to the 10 virgins thing. You know, it doesn't seem to be clear who's. Like, it's just, there's some are prepared and some aren't.
Yep.
And here's like, there's just sheep or they're goats. And it's not, their works do flow from that, but their knowledge of it, their wisdom of it, their insight in even what they're doing isn't the deciding factor.
Yeah. Well, and you could even, I think, it's not in the parable, or it's not in this this story, but you could almost hear them add to their statement. If we had seen you, we would have done it. If we knew it was you, we would have taken care of it.
Yeah.
We would have made sure we looked good in your eyes, if you will, kind of thing. But we don't ever remember seeing you in this state, and so, you know, how can we be condemned by that?
And that's why it always goes back to the, you don't know the hour in which the Lord will come.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like those people are like, oh, I'll repent when the end times are here.
Yeah.
You know, that's the big issue here. And Jesus is addressing is that, no, it's not about repenting at the end or right before when you know it, because you consciously know it. And I think that's one of the big things that our hearers, a lot of times they misunderstand. It's that it's the knowledge of knowing. No, it's actually believing. It's the faith that already resides in you versus someone who's trying to game the system of saying, I could have faith at the very end because, you know.
Well, it's why I've moved from translating faith as trust, because trust is an activity. It's not a knowledge. It's not a thing. It's actually an activity. So just like our faith is, it was. So going back to Galatians, the passive and active righteousness, it was the passive righteousness that was given to them. That created the active righteousness in them, and because it's passive, they don't even know it's happening. It's just happening.
Yeah, it's James. Faith without works is dead. Like
exactly.
It will happen.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I think when we were going through this, I was thinking of when I was in Georgia, when I was pastor out there. We did a round robin preaching with the Advent or Lent, one of those, and my church at the end of our service, we had this tradition of saying, I would say at the very end of the service, go in peace. And that was it. Another church that in our circuit there, they would say, go in peace and serve the Lord, which was like the full thing. And I had just been there and I said it the way they do it, right? And then I came back the next Sunday and I said it that way, like I had the whole thing. And I had a member, God bless him, came up afterwards. He's like, serve the Lord, really? And I'm like, what? He was a great guy. And his point was kind of like this. He's like, we don't go out to serve the Lord. You serve your neighbor. You take care of one another. Those kind of things. And it was a great. We were laughing about it. I said, where did I pick that? And then I went, it was the other church, right? But it was the sense that go in peace. Like that's fine. Just go. You're in peace. You've got the blessings, the gifts of Christ. This thing has been prepared for you from the foundation of the world. It is yours, and guess what? You will do good things.
It will.
You will serve your Lord because that's who you are, right?
Yeah, and I think Luther even says our good works stop becoming good works when we acknowledge them as good works.
Yeah.
So that because all of a sudden now there's something that I've equated to myself rather than just living in the life that Christ has given me to live. So
you're end of the church year, end times, he kind of Return of the King, separating sheep and goats moment. What are you going to kind of like focus on? And I really want to hear from Ernie because he hasn't said a word.
Yeah, I know. He's gleaning all of our wisdom.
Yeah.
Man of little words.
He's not contributing anything.
We want to see what those words are.
So, Ernie, what might you focus on last Sunday of the church year with this?
Yeah, the reason why I wasn't talking was because I was meditating on your wise words. So
Well, now you've had a chance.
It's
So.
too much for me to bear. No, I think I think number one, I think it's to really be cognizant of the here, so that they clearly understand what you just said about. They could read this as what? They could just say simply, "Oh, okay, I need to do these things,
Get to
or,
work.
like serve the Lord, like do these things in order to somehow prove or sit that I'm on the right hand side of God, and really make that clear about faith and the blood of Christ, the gospel, of course, and really a call to vocation as well, but the preaching of it in a way where we speak of, like, let's say, between the second and third use of the law, just to really distinguish that for the people, because we can't do these things in a sense of meriting our way, but rather it is a faith in our being as the cup overflows in the joy of the vocation that God has given to us, that we love and serve our neighbor. So I think a lot of times people do it to somehow appease their conscience.
Yeah.
If we all be honest with ourselves, like, you're such a good guy, Paul.
I know.
And you've done well. And your nature might say, well, yeah, that's right. I'm one of the goats because I've done well. I've done good. When in fact it's, as you said, Luther. When we say it's a good work, it's and that the work of Christ. It goes back to the Beatitudes too. As people view the Beatitudes or the parable of the 10 virgins, it's constantly, the Beatitudes in itself, it can be taken in a very legalistic way.
Sure.
It's the same thing with this, when in fact it's flipped upside down when we really look at the words of Christ and see what he's done, and as we proceed in the correct way, the faithful way. So.
Yeah. Anything else?
Well, it works out for me. I mean, my congregation right now, we're going through this, self-learning experience where we're asking ourselves, what's the core value of our congregation? And one of the core values that any congregation should have is it's a non-negotiable, right? That's the identity, and that's the thing that you do. And in the context of this, it's like being a sheep. It's so ingrained in you. It's so part of you that it happens without you even knowing it. Yeah. And so for any congregation, we want to be able to identify. For us, this works out perfectly. It's helping us identify what is something that's so ingrained in us that we're going to do no matter what. Like, when you come to our church, this is what you see we do all the time without even being asked to do it. And so that's kind of where I'm going to start pushing on this, because it just works out for me.
Yeah. Got anything to add there, Matt?
No, I'm still kind of working my way through it, but something about the idea of, going back to trying not to focus on the works. Yeah. Because I think that when we do, and that's why I'm trying to figure out how to put this in the context of that final, that we know Jesus is coming back. Like, his return is imminent. It is gonna happen. So in the meantime, what do you do? And if we're so focused on him and making sure we look good in his eyes, then part of the thing that we're gonna miss is actually the works that we've been given to do. Yeah. Kind of. So I may throw in that line come from that I kind of stuck in there from the goats. If we would have known it was you, we would have done it. Yeah, but
I definitely think that's like the way to play. Like, I like the. You could basically go down the road of a legalistic reading of this text.
Oh, for sure.
And like kind of lay that out there or tease it out.
Yep.
And then just hammer it, right? And kind of walk it back in a, these they don't even know what they're doing, right? Mm-hmm. It's what they are, and that is, as core is in faith. And but lots of good stuff there. Take a look at craftspreaching.com. There'll be an article there on this text and the others for the last Sunday of the church year, getting us ready for Advent, which is just around the corner. Take a minute to like and subscribe, and God bless your preaching.